What is up, mysterious audio crew? Have you ever thought about what it would take to disappear? To really disappear? To leave all of your friends and family members behind? To never talk to them again or see them again? You would need a plan. You would need money. A lot of money. You would probably need help. 16-year-old Mekayla Bali had none of these things. But in the spring of 2016, she disappeared from her small town in Saskatchewan, Canada, after a string of events that seemed to indicate that she was planning to leave. But where would a 16-year-old go? That is a question Mekayla's parents are still asking themselves. April 16, 2016. Memory is a funny thing. What otherwise would have been a normal day is etched into the minds of Mekayla's family. They've studied the events of April 16, 2016, over and over, trying to find meaning in what their daughter did that day. On April 16, 2016, Mekayla got up and ready for school. Her father recalls that they got ready for the day together, as they often did. Nothing seemed abnormal, but early that morning, she had texted one of her friends asking for a ride to a local bank. Her friend Oksana later reported that Mekayla told her she had $5,000 in the bank that she wanted to withdraw, but Oksana was already on her way to school and didn't want to be late. So she told Mekayla she couldn't take her to the bank. Investigators would later confirm through bank statements that Mekayla's actual balance was nowhere near $5,000. By 8:20 a.m., Mekayla's grandmother dropped her off at school. There is CCTV footage of her entering Sacred Heart High School and heading towards her locker, where she stood for about 6 minutes before leaving the school from its back door. Cell phone tower data was also very useful in this case, allowing police to pinpoint who Mekayla was texting and when. But because this information doesn't include the actual content of the text message, police had to track down the recipients and senders of those texts to find out what was actually said that day. But even though these texts could be traced, Mekayla, whether intentionally or not, had made her calls from social media apps, meaning the police could see her talking on the phone in the security footage, but there was no way for them to track down those calls. Around this time, as she left the school grounds, she received a text message from her ex-boyfriend asking why she wasn't in school. Her response was that she was on the other side of town. Much of what we know about Mekayla's movements on April 16th is due to Saskatchewan's widespread use of security cameras. They show us that after walking out of the back of the school, she got on the phone. She's caught on a camera outside of a convenience store and following the train tracks as she talks on the phone. It's impossible to tell if she placed or received the call from the footage. But we know that she was on the phone when she got to the bank at 8:55 a.m. The teller opened his shutters to find a teenager standing there. As soon as the teller saw her, she ended the phone call and stepped forward to ask him to withdraw $55 out of her account. By 9 a.m., she had left the bank and was caught on camera entering a pawn shop. Like the teller, the pawn shop owner was slightly surprised to see a teenager, especially this early in the day. And when she offered him a silver ring, asking how much he would give her for it, he declined to buy it. Later, he told the police, "Silver value's really low, so it just wasn't enough value in the ring to even bother making an offer on it. She was quiet and didn't seem to be in distress or anything." After she left the pawn shop, Mekayla was on the move again. By 9:15 a.m., she was seated at a table of a combined Tim Hortons and Wendy's, buying only a drink. One of the restaurant's cameras later showed that she did not look particularly distressed, but did have periods where she began to fidget. Over the next 13 minutes, she fiddled with the large backpack sitting on the seat beside her. She watched the entrance of the restaurant between getting on and off her phone, possibly sending texts or playing a game. At one point, she actually took her phone apart, popping off the back and taking out the battery. Then she snapped everything back together and continued fiddling with it. At 9:23 a.m., she got up and walked out of the restaurant. She disappeared from the footage for a moment before reappearing through a different door, but she didn't sit down again. She walked through once, scanned the restaurant, and left once again. April 17, 2016. Her next appearance on a camera revealed her walking back and forth in front of a home hardware store. Then she went into the Tim Hortons and Wendy's restaurant for a third time, whose footage shows her on the phone once again. When the police later checked her call logs, there weren't any incoming or outgoing calls at the time. They suspect that she used an app to place the calls. At 9:49 a.m., she was sitting down again, but this time positioned so that she had a better vantage point of the door and front window. When her call was over, she sat and continued to busy herself on the phone. She kept glancing out the window as if she was looking for someone. 14 minutes after returning to the restaurant, she sent one of her friends, Shelby, a text message. All it says is, "Hey, I need help." 20 minutes later, she followed up that message with, "Never mind, I figured it out." Shelby's phone was at home, so she didn't see the messages until later that afternoon. This time, Mekayla stayed at the restaurant for nearly an hour. The entire time she made calls, sent messages, and peered around. Of course, we can only guess what she was thinking and doing. But these are the telltale signs of a girl who thinks she's meeting up with someone, and whoever she is meeting with hasn't shown up yet. At 10:40 a.m., Mekayla got up from her booth and began talking to a woman sitting at one of the neighboring tables. After their conversation, she left and never came back to the restaurant. The woman she talked to later told the police that Mekayla asked her to rent her a hotel room at the nearby Ramada, but that she politely refused. Next, she is seen walking west, crossing a street, and then turning around and walking back the way she originally came. During this movement, she passes the front of that Ramada hotel twice, and then for over an hour she disappears from the cameras. No one knows where she was between 10:45 and 11:55 a.m., but we do know that she was alive. Because just before noon, Mekayla returned to Sacred Heart High School, having sent another text to Shelby at 11:35, which simply read, "I'll see you at lunch." She was only there for a few minutes, but in that time, two of her friends saw her and asked what she was doing. Mekayla said she was about to catch a bus before leaving school once again. She apparently claimed she was going on a vacation to Regina, and in fact, when investigators dug deeper into Mekayla's last conversations with her friends, they found the topic of Regina coming up again and again. Shelby says nobody really took Mekayla seriously when she brought up her fantasies of leaving town. Sure, the two had discussed their hopes for moving to a bigger and better city like Regina one day to escape their small hometown, but Shelby had seen it as no more than wishful thinking. On the day directly preceding her disappearance, Mekayla had brought it up yet again, while eating fast food with some close friends, saying she had an upcoming family vacation there. Later that same night, she had texted an ex-boyfriend about feeling sad, and yet again, wanting to take a short trip to Regina. Whether or not Mekayla's two friends knew something was off, they never could have guessed that this would be the last time they ever spoke with their friend. April 18, 2016. Mekayla's mysterious return to school was brief and ambiguous. In some of the footage from her visit, it appears that she may have been holding two phones. This is the last time she appears on camera, but not the last time she was seen. Mekayla headed to the bus depot, so it seems like she was telling her friends the truth about catching a bus. At the depot, she asked an employee when the next bus to Regina was, and the employee informed her it would arrive in about 5 hours. Since it appeared to be a long wait, Mekayla went into the depot's restaurant, the Trail Stop. We know that she ordered something to eat and hung around for 45 minutes before leaving, but she did not return to school, home, or even the combined Tim Hortons and Wendy's where she'd been sitting. It's at 1 p.m. when she walks out of the UFC bus depot and completely disappears. The investigation. When Mekayla was not waiting at school to be picked up that afternoon, her family started to get concerned. She was a teenager, though, and sometimes teenagers are irresponsible. They go to a friend's house and forget to text their parents. They lose track of time. This was likely what her parents and grandparents told themselves in the beginning. But the next day, when they still hadn't heard from Mekayla, they went to the police and reported her missing. The first step was to trace her last steps. And to do that, the police pulled all of the CCTV footage from Sacred Heart High School, the Tim Hortons and Wendy's, the bank, the pawn shop, and all other businesses in the surrounding area. This is how they were able to map out what we know about Mekayla's final movements. They also dug into her computer, social media, and her cell phone. Her Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts were gone. Her texts, especially to her friends, were cryptic, but not totally unusual. When she was at the bank, she hadn't withdrawn enough money to get her anywhere far, and police did not find any bus tickets in her name. She had never expressed any desire to run away, and her family and friends said she was usually very happy and not prone to dramatic emotional outbursts or behaviors. When the initial investigation didn't turn up anything unusual, police expanded their efforts, coordinating with law enforcement agencies across Canada and the United States. Despite that, there have been no confirmed sightings of Mekayla since the day she disappeared. Unanswered questions. If Mekayla had plans to run away, they seemed pretty last minute. And with how few funds she had, it would have been impossible to get very far. This has led investigators to speculate whether she had a secret accomplice, a stranger she met online who may have lured her away with promises of adventure, romance, or escape. Perhaps she thought she was meeting up with this person, and then learned the hard way that people online can pretend to be whoever they want. The strange texts she sent her friend Shelby, asking for help, indicate that something did go wrong. And although her last text message sounded like everything was okay, it may not have been. It's also possible that Mekayla's alleged plans to travel to Regina were not indicative of her end goal, but instead a distraction. Maybe she told her friends about a family trip to Regina so they wouldn't worry when she disappeared, thinking she was safe with her family. As of now, no one knows for sure what happened to Mekayla Bali. In the years since her disappearance, the case has grown cold, but it remains open, and her family continues to search for answers. The hope that one day she will return home has not dimmed. Every lead, no matter how small, is pursued in the hope of finding out what really happened to Mekayla. Whether she ran away on her own, was lured away by someone she trusted, or fell victim to foul play, her family deserves to know the truth. Until then, the mystery of Mekayla Bali's disappearance remains unsolved.